Imagine a biological machine traveling at nearly 47 miles per hour.
Which is incredibly fast.
Right. I mean, that is literally highway speed,
Right.
but fueled entirely by muscle, bone, and, just oxygen.
Yeah.
Now imagine that machine is a horse, because back in 2002, a Japanese racehorse achieved that exact velocity. And the horse that set this untouchable monument was named Calstone Light O. They called him the Straight Line King. And today we are taking a deep dive into an extensive retrospective on his career.
It's quite a story.
Let's look at his origins really quick. So he was born in May 1998. His father was Warning, and his maternal grandfather, or the broodmare sire, was Crystal Glitters. His mother was Oshima Lucia.
Right.
And from what I'm seeing in these breeding charts, he was basically an outsider at the exact moment he stepped onto the track.
He really was. He was a complete genetic outlier in the context of Japanese racing. To put it simply, the Japanese breeding landscape has been overwhelmingly dominated by descendants of a legendary horse named Sunday Silence.
Oh, Sunday Silence.
Yeah, right. That bloodline is the gold standard. It provides this known, proven blueprint for creating versatile champions who can handle various distances and track conditions. But Calstone Light O, he traced back to the Godolphin Arabian branch.
Which is pretty rare there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He did not possess that mainstream genetic resume that analysts or trainers typically look for when they're predicting a superstar.
The funny thing is, the moment he actually started running, nobody cared about the pedigree. I mean, November 2000 rolls around. He debuts as a 2-year-old in a 1,200-meter race, and it is just a pure display of fast twitch muscle.
Oh, explosive.
He wins by 6 lengths, and then he enters the cage show, which is another short sprint, and wins by another 6 lengths. That's 12 combined lengths of dominance in his first 2 starts. He only seemed to know one setting, which was just go immediately to the front and accelerate.
In those 1,200-meter races, that raw power was just enough to break the will of the other horses before his own fatigue could set in.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because this is where the strategy seems to completely derail in the source material. The trainers see him win these short sprints, and they decide, hey, let's enter him in the Asaki High Sansai Stakes, which is a G1 race.
A huge leap.
Massive, for anyone unfamiliar. But here's the catch. This race is 1,600 meters long, making it a middle distance event for milers.
Right.
And on top of that, it features a brutal uphill section right at the end. So Calstone Light O blasts to the front, opens up a massive lead, hits that hill, and completely falls apart. He finishes 10th.
Yeah, it was a violent collision with his own biological limit.
It proves he wasn't a miler.
Exactly.
Rad for you.
It proved he didn't just need better pacing. It proved his specialization was absolute. Once they understood his limitations, the objective shifted from making him conform to standard expectations to finding the exact environment that rewarded his specific mutation.
And that search for the perfect environment dominated his 2001 season. The sources paint a really frustrating picture here. He starts running in what are called open class races. These are high-level competitions, but a step below the elite graded stakes races.
Right.
And he wins them with aggressive front running. But every time he steps up to graded stakes company against the best horses, he loses. He constantly becomes the betting favorite because the public sees this blinding speed, but he just cannot close the deal on a standard track.
Because a standard oval track introduces variables that negate pure, sustained speed. Graded stakes races require tactical positioning.
Like saving ground.
Yes. A horse has to navigate corners, which involves dealing with centrifugal force and constantly shifting their balance. Jockeys have to conserve ground by tucking into the pack, which means dealing with traffic. Every time Calstone Light O had to corner or adjust his stride for a tactical maneuver, he was bleeding off the explosive momentum that made him special.
Which sets the stage perfectly for June 2002. After winning the TUF Cup, he finds a race called the Ibis Summer Dash at the Niigata racecourse.
A legendary moment.
The distance is 1,000 meters. But the distance isn't even the magic element here, it's the track layout.
Precisely. The Ibis Summer Dash is the only major race in the entire Japanese racing calendar conducted entirely on a straight course.
Oh, wait, no corners at all.
Not a single bend from the starting gate to the finish line.
That is wild.
It really is. That completely removes the need for tactical positioning, cornering, or maneuvering through a pack to save ground. It strips the sport down to its most fundamental physical equation, which is just pure, uninterrupted linear velocity.
Wow.
And if you think about it, it makes you wonder, how often we fail simply because we are navigating corners we were never built for, rather than finding our own straight away.
I love that. And here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources note that Calstone Light O had this specific quirk. He had a bad, persistent habit of drifting to the right while he ran.
Which is usually a terrible thing.
Right. On a standard oval track with left-hand turns, drifting to the outside right is catastrophic. You are constantly running a wider, longer distance than the rest of the field.
And the jockey has to expend a ton of energy fighting the horse just to keep him straight. It creates immense friction. The jockey is pulling the reins, breaking the horse's natural stride, and forcing a biomechanical correction that wastes precious fast-switch energy.
But in this specific straight-line race, he draws an outside gate near the right-hand rail. And his jockey does something brilliant. He does nothing.
Yeah.
He doesn't fight the drift at all. He just lets the horse drift over to that outside rail and run exactly how he naturally wants to run. The outer rail was the perfect location, and the result was just unbelievable. He sets a new course and race record of 53.7 seconds.
Which is where that 75 kilometers per hour figure comes from, or roughly 46.6 miles per hour. Race analysts breaking down the sectional times realized he was reaching velocities that border on the absolute maximum physical limit of the equine species.
And just to ground this in reality again, that 53.7-second record stood completely alone for decades.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is just an absurd anomaly. It was equaled in 2025, but as we sit here in 2026, it has never been surpassed. In a world where track surfaces, breeding, and science constantly evolve, a 24-year-old speed record is a massive anomaly in any sport.
The physical toll of generating that kind of explosive force is just devastating. Following that record, severe leg concerns sidelined him. I mean, you think about the sheer amount of kinetic energy pounding through those thin ankles at 46 miles per hour.
Something has to give.
Exactly. He missed the entire 2003 Ibis Dash and managed only one open class win in a really disappointing year.
Most analysts reasonably assumed his career at the top level was just over.
But then we jump to 2004. He takes third in the Hakodate Sprint Stakes, and then he returns to Niigata for the Ibis Summer Dash, the return of the king.
Yes.
The gates open, and it's a masterclass in repeating history. He rockets to the front, drifts to his beloved outside rail, and wins the race. But he doesn't just win. He wins by a staggering 3 lengths, which is still the largest margin in Ibis history.
To contextualize a 3-length margin in a 1,000-meter straight sprint, these races are almost always decided by fractions of a second. They often come down to a photo finish of mere noses.
Right, it's so short.
Exactly. So winning by 3 full lengths in an event this short is an absolute, undeniable demolition. It proved that his 2002 record wasn't a fluke condition. That terrifying speed was his actual baseline when placed in the correct environment.
So the straight line king reclaims his crown. But then the connections aim for the ultimate test. They target the Sprinters Stakes, which is Japan's premier sprint G1 race.
A huge risk.
Yeah, because the track isn't straight,
Yeah.
and the odds are completely against him. On the day of the race, there's heavy, relentless rain. The turf has devolved into this muddy, exhausting swamp. And the defending champion is Durandal, who is a legendary closing sprinter.
A phenomenal horse. It exhausts the leader, slowing the pace down just enough for the closers like Durandal, who are conserving their energy at the back, to just sweep past in the final stretch.
But the mechanics of what actually happened defied all those expectations. Calstone Light O didn't just survive the mud. When the race starts, he explodes to the front anyway. By the time they hit the final corner, he has essentially broken the field, and in the final stretch, instead of fading, he actually accelerates.
It was incredible. By the time they reached the final stretch, he hadn't just maintained his lead. He had systematically broken the will and the stamina of every other horse trying to match his early pace.
He beats Durandal by 4 lengths. That tied the modern record for the largest G1 Sprinters Stakes victory margin since 1990. And it secured him this profoundly unique distinction. As of 2026, he remains the only Ibis Summer Dash winner to ever go on to win a G1.
It was the ultimate vindication. It proved his speed was not merely a gimmick reliant on a straight track. At the absolute peak of his maturity, his specialized velocity was so overwhelming that it could neutralize adverse weather, terrible ground conditions, and top-tier competition.
So what does this all mean? The rocket fuel always burns out eventually. Following that G1 triumph, age and physical wear catch up to him. He tries the Hong Kong Sprint that winter, but finishes 14th.
A tough end.
Yeah. He returns for one final Ibis Summer Dash, but he's hampered by an inside draw, meaning he doesn't get his beloved outside rail in tough weight conditions. He finishes 4th, and then he retires.
And his post-racing career really underscores how much of an anomaly he was. Because his Godolphin Arabian bloodline sat so far outside Japan's mainstream breeding trends, he never established a major sire line.
Ah, right.
His style of hyper-specialized running was just considered too risky to reproduce. So he produced a few regional stakes winners, but no champions. He did live a peaceful, long life, though, passing away on February 7, 2024 at age 26.
Looking at his career in totality, it's a difficult legacy to categorize. He didn't build a breeding empire, he never won a Triple Crown, he was completely useless at anything longer than a sprint, and for much of his early career, he couldn't even navigate a corner properly.
This raises an important question about how we measure a legacy. If we judge him by the standard metrics of versatility, endurance, and genetic legacy, he's a failure. But his legacy isn't versatility. It is the absolute peak of singular specialization.
Right.
The stopwatch still agrees that he achieved a level of sheer velocity that no other horse in Japanese history has ever matched.
Calstone Light was a horse that seemed to outrun time itself. The stopwatch still agrees he is the benchmark, the fastest horse in Japanese racing history.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.